For the first one here, like chapter, we cover chapter 1. So the topic, as you see, the induction, deduction, reasoning for the first one. The second one, estimation and graphs, problem solving. These are like the general things that you have done in everyday anyway, but they do not, nobody tells you that, okay, what are you thinking right now? That is inductive. Whatever you're saying right now is deductive. It's just like kind of clarify and identify and categorize for you. This way is called the certain way. This way you call another thing, something like that. Okay. And then the last one, the 1.3 about problem solving, that would be the most applicable one for this chapter. For the inductive and deductive reasoning, by definition, the inductive reasoning is just the process of thinking, okay? Just to arrive the general conclusion. They are talking about the conclusion, like whatever you think for that situation, the conclusion is based on observation. Okay, it's called inductive reasoning. And then the conclusion is called conjecture or hypothesis or educated guess. Okay, and it could be true or could not be true for the inductive reasoning. If you could find any counter example, that means your conclusion or your conjecture is false. So it's not always true, depends on the situation. All right, so that's the inductive reasoning. And then I'm gonna go over another one, the deductive reasoning, and to show you the difference between these two. Deductive reasoning is the process of thinking to arrive the conclusion, but this conclusion is is the process of proving a specific conclusion from one or more general statement. So deductive reasoning, the conclusion is called a theorem. And this theorem or this conclusion is already proved to be true. So always true for the deductive reasoning. All right, and I'm gonna add another slide and show you the differences and a quick way to identify these two different reasoning. Okay, for the inductive reasoning and deductive reasoning. You see the key term, the inductive, the deductive. Think about something that you are familiar with. For example, increase. Okay, increase. And this one decrease. Okay. The inductive reasoning, starting from the smaller portion, okay, from the smaller portion of based on the observation. So observation. And then you make a conclusion for the general statement. So based on the observation. And this one is the conclusion. And the conclusion is called the conjecture. Okay, conjecture, or what is the other one that we call the hypothesis, or the educated guess. Okay, so it could be true or not be true. So maybe true or not true. Okay, for the deductive reasoning, I use the key term like D, like decrease, right? So this one based on the general statement or the bigger population, and then make a conclusion to the smaller group. So this is based on one or more general statement and make a conclusion. And the conclusion for the deductive reasoning is called the theorem. And then this conclusion is always true. Okay. For the case of the inductive reasoning, the case that is not true, that means you can find the, what is it called? It's called the counter example. Okay, I'm gonna, so that means if you can find the counter example, so then the inductive reasoning is not true, or the conclusion is not true, as long as you can find some example that make it or prove it that it's not true. Okay. Otherwise, on the other way, the deductive reasoning, the conclusion always true, and that conclusion is called theorem.